All right, everybody. We're going to talk about the labor market, and we're going to show some graphs that hopefully everybody will be able to see pretty clearly. And this is a pretty simple thing. The challenges come when the questions come up about changes, okay? So just be aware, we've got two graphs. We got the graph for the labor markets. I always put USA here to symbolize like this is everybody, right? Unskilled workers are, we're gonna set the wage at $15. And that can change with the supply and demand for labor in the USA. Nothing that the firm will do as far as this lesson goes is gonna change the wage. So get out of your head like nice boss that's gonna give you a raise. This is where the wage is determined, okay? If you keep that in mind, then this just becomes easy, okay? So here's the wage, it's set at $15. There is no minimum wage imposed. That's just our equilibrium wage. And that carries over to here to all employees. So employees number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 all make $15 an hour. I made it an hourly wage. It could be a daily wage, which might be $100, but all right. And then these little dots here represent what? The marginal revenue product of each employee. Okay. I'm gonna try to abide by my 8-minute rule. Okay. I really like this sweater. Looks even, better than I thought it to. It's like a Cameron Sarvis quality level of sweater. All right, so it doesn't matter what the numbers here. We know that these marginal revenue products are greater than the $15. Okay, so we're gonna hire this employee number 1, employee number 2, employee number 3, and then what happens? We hit our diminishing marginal returns point right here. Okay, that's the most valuable employee. And I made it the 4th employee here. I always do the 3rd employee, so just gotta be aware it's not a certain number employee, it's where the marginal revenue product starts to decrease. All right, and then it comes down and we have this. All right, and that tells us that, well, here's our point of intersection. There is no employee 6.5. Employee number 6 would be the last employee that I would hire because they're bringing in more than the $15. Okay, we could say maybe that's $17 or something like that, right? Regardless, they're bringing in more money than they cost, therefore we hire them. Employee number 7, too bad, so sad, you're only bringing in like $10, you're costing 15, we're not gonna hire you. Okay, remember the wage, this horizontal line, while it is constantly the same, the hardest thing is remembering all the things that it can represent. So it's the wage, marginal factor cost. Marginal factor cost just means the additional cost of hiring another worker. Well, if they all cost $15, every hire is an additional $15, then this is like Mr. DARP in the sense that it's always $15 forever, for eternity. And this is also the supply of labor for the firm, different from the supply of labor for the entire market. Whereas this is the marginal revenue product or demand for labor. And where they intersect, that's our hiring for max profit. So right here is where MRP equals MFC. We could make the argument that we could hire 6 employees plus 1 part-time employee. We're not gonna get into that, but you could make that argument that this would be, you're missing out on a little bit of profit area in here. Okay. All right. I'll just do another graph, not with each individual dot. You might have on the AP exam a marginal revenue product that just goes straight down diagonal, okay, without, especially if it's capital market, which we're gonna talk about in just a second, okay? All right, now, I've been focusing on the labor market. We could have a capital equipment market. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna talk about a capital market just like that? Well, guess what the difference is? I changed supply of labor and demand for labor to supply of capital and demand for capital. This would be like machinery. And then this is quantity of capital. So I just changed everything. It's like a robot equals a person, right? And instead of wage, this is the daily rent. All right? This stays marginal factor cost because we're just, a factor could be an employee or it could be a piece of machinery. And then guess what? I have my marginal revenue product of capital, okay? And the demand for capital for the firm is this diagonal line. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit and say that this is 5 pieces of machine. And then this would be supply of capital. So essentially, everything is exactly the same, okay, when we're talking about machines versus employees, except this is rent, and this is supply and demand of capital, okay, and obviously we're talking about machines. You don't tend to get the benefits of specializations with the machines, okay? 7:08, all right? Just trying to keep track of the time. And just keep in mind, so there is no diminishing marginal returns here. It is possible you could get some benefits of specializations with machinery. I'm sure that does take place, but don't worry too much about that. This functions exactly the same way. And obviously, you know, I'm not gonna get the 6th, 7th, 8th piece of machinery with that, okay? All right, so I'm gonna cut off the video here, and then the next one, we're gonna talk about changes in the market, which is a little more complicated, not super complicated.